writing on the walls. I am the sweet smell of blood. I am something. I want you to be my victim. Be my victim. God, I love Tony Todd. He's such a good guy. Actually met him at Comic Con once. So, let's talk about the new Candyman trailer. So it is Film Friday. I know I should be reviewing the film, but we're going to talk about this Candyman trailer and what I think about it, because Candyman is my favorite horror movie ever. It just is. It's not the best horror movie. I just love it. It simultaneously breaks the rules while setting new precedents and rules for people to follow. An actual story, actual lore behind him, which most times we didn't have. Jason, what can you say about him that you can't say that Candyman needs to be said in 3 hours? My friend asked me, who's Candyman? And why does he do this? And I go, it's a long story, but I'm going to tell you. It took us like 20 minutes. But like, Jason, you're like, oh, it's just a little boy who who was deformed, got thrown in a lake, survived, comes back way later as a zombie, I guess. And that's honestly the hardest thing to believe. Jason is the hardest thing to believe. The Candyman, well, yeah, it has some mythic stuff to it, but it makes you think. It does a huge fake out. Literally, during the movie, during the first movie, this girl, she goes into the bathroom and she says Candyman 5 times. If you don't know, that's how you summon Candyman. He's not a real thing, don't worry. Anyway, the guy beats her up. He goes, I'm Candyman, bitch. And it's just a normal guy, and he has a hook in his hand. And so that's why. And then later on in the film, she goes to a psych ward because she says that she's seen the Candyman. She's in a hospital, and the Candyman actually comes. There's a real Candyman. It does a huge fake out, which I was not expecting. That's like almost saying, son, you aren't having dreams. You aren't going to die. And then he doesn't die. And he just wakes up, and he thought that he was going to die, and then he dies later from Freddy Krueger. No horror movie has really ever done one of those. And even if they did it beforehand, they did it really badly. This one did it fantastic, because you can obviously assume that Candyman isn't real. Honestly, it's probably still my favorite horror movie. I don't think there's anything that can top it. And honestly, this year we're getting some of the best horror movies ever. We're getting The Spiral, which is going to be a sequel to Saw. A kind of continuation of Saw, but it's going to be a little different. And also, it's made by Chris Rock, and I was excited from day one because I was like, okay, Chris Rock, he knows how to make writing good. Okay, people think him as a comedy guy. I think him as the serious guy from Dogma, which is a hilarious movie. Obviously, if you're religious, you might not like it, and I wouldn't recommend it to any of you. Any viewer right now, I'd say that's a lot later thing, because it is an R-rated movie. Just wait for that one. Don't worry about it. You ain't missing nothing. That one you could wait, and it's not even that good. Just joking. It's great. It's phenomenal. The best. Anyway, so Candyman. Honestly, the first movie was fantastic. It was so just interesting. And even the trailer, if you watch the trailer now, you're like, oh, that's cool. And it's just a fantastic horror movie. I'm very certain with horror movies. You can't do it wrong, you can't do it right. You gotta find a sweet spot where your lore fits, works, and you aren't constantly twisting gears. You aren't having to bend stuff over. Like with Freddy Krueger. You had to bend stuff over to think that he was still alive. You had to bend stuff and ruin lore. Candyman, well, the first movie and then the second movie, they don't really switch anything. They don't ruin anything. Honestly. Candyman is just my favorite series in general for horror, because it has that weird breaking of the rules. Okay, I guess having a black lead isn't always the main thing for horror movies, but it had one, and you know what? He was scary. I think he's scarier than a lot of white guys. But the more that you watch the movie, the more you can see it kind of breaks rules. One, introducing a character through lore and not seeing his kills. Two, having very low kills. It has some of the lowest kills I've ever seen. Even Freddy Krueger somehow rounds up around 70 movie. But really, Candyman, I think its first movie only had like 5 or something. Maybe even less. Probably less. You can watch the kill count of it and you know how much there is. Honestly, this movie is fantastic. And when they announced that they were making a sequel and Jordan Peele was producing it, even him having his name on it was going to give it a reputation of amazing. That is such a story and a line that deals with heavy topics of racism, and especially with oppression. It definitely is kind of smart that they're having a very director who can obviously pull that off, who can do that, who can make a film about race while still being scary as fuck. Even watching the trailer just looks scary. Seeing that CGI has come so far that we can have mirror shots of one guy, but it actually being Candyman, smart. And they definitely found a way that they could pass on the torch of Candyman. I could see this being a very viable thing, sort of always happening every couple or so years. Once the Candyman gets old and people stop believing in him, someone's got to be the calling and mess it all up, and then they are the Candyman. And it could be an endless cycle. With Freddy Krueger, you gotta reincarnate him somehow through the devil. Or Jason, you just gotta bring him back to life somehow because he's a zombie. Or Candyman, you can actually have multiple Candyman. I say that some of the best horror films that have sequels is because they know that they don't have to use the same characters from the original. Stuff like Saw, why has it gone on so long? Well, because you don't need it to be Kramer all the time. You can have it be him, but it can definitely be different people. Saw is such a universal horror film that you can switch it up with anyone. You could even continue stuff like, I don't know, Candyman, continuously. And I think that's one of the best things for horror movies. Honestly, now, that's what all horror movies should strive to do. Even if they're just going for a one-off. They should at least have some sort of mythos where someone can gain the mask. That's why if I ever made a horror movie, it would be about this mask that takes control of you. And you go insane. I know that's Jim Carrey's The Mask, but mine would be way different. You can't control if the mask takes you. The mask takes you either way. The mask doesn't personify you in any way. You are a killer if you have the mask on. And yeah, I guess that's stupid. Anyway, those movies can do good, and smartly enough, they are doing good. I think Jordan Peele is doing great with the horror genre. I think he definitely needs to make more kind of scarier stuff. Admittedly, Us was really good, but it wasn't scary. Get Out was good, but it wasn't scary. Candyman looks terrifying. I mean, it's just scary. If you just watch the trailer, it's scary. It's not scary in a bad way that you'll have nightmares. It's just scary like, ooh, the Candyman. Anyway, you know the usual trick. Don't go saying that stuff in the mirror. Just avoid it. I'm just joking. It doesn't work. I've tried it many times. I just want to meet Tony Todd so bad. If you have seen Candyman, congrats. That's my favorite horror movie. I'm going to give it an A+. I know, that's so high. Why is it high? Because it sticks to today. I think it has the lowest kill count of any horror movie I've seen. I think it has even less than Get Out, and that has exceptionally low. Really, it is a fantastic movie. It is worth watching. And yes, it is R, but a lot of the kills, there's one kill in particular that I can point out as being scary. The other ones are very, oh, well, he died. But it is a very serious movie. It's a lot like, I don't want to say Hotel Rwanda. But it's serious in that sense. It could be PG-13, but it's still serious. Doesn't diminish the fact of it being serious. So thank you guys for watching. I have been Rodimus2099. I'll see you in the next video where I do something. And that something is something. Anyway, goodbye.